Welcome to the 5th East Asia Film Festival Ireland 2021. Thank you for joining us for this special conversation with director Zheng Lu Xinyuan, whose brilliant film The Cloud in Her Room premiered in Ireland as part of this year's festival. I'm Vanessa Gildea, Vice Chair of Women in Film and Television Ireland. Xinyuan, welcome to the festival.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you here, and congratulations on your film, The Cloud in Her Room. Your very brilliant film, The Cloud in Her Room, and all its success to date. But also, as a filmmaker, thank you for making, and a film fan, thank you for making a film so beautiful, honest, and thought-provoking. So I'd like to start with, you wrote this film as well as directing it, and I was very moved by it, by the portrayal of the family relationships, the cinematic kind of external expression of the internal mind. I felt in some ways this film could have been set anywhere, in a town in the west of Ireland, but it's also very special for being Chinese. But I feel that by mining the personal, you have created the universal here. I think maybe achieving that comes down to honesty. Do you agree? And maybe you could talk a little bit about what drove and inspired this film.
Okay. Thank you for watching the film and your lovely words. So for this film, I think, like you just said, I think if one is honest enough with ourselves, what you say can many times encode with, you might reach certain part of your audience that may not be wide, may not be the same like ethnic groups, or because there are people saying like, oh, your film is so much for women, but I think it's not limited by gender or age or race or anything. There are some honesty with certain emotions and the physicalities in relationships, and also the fluidity in our sexuality and the relationships that I think people can have certain can relate themselves to. And for the inspiration of this film, because I was in the US when I write the film, so there is this time and a physical distance between us. It's not something so nostalgia that drove me to write the film. It's more about when I'm at a different place, there are certain things merge onto my mind and keeps on chasing after me. And I try to write it down in words first. So it started with like a fragmented or scattered diary. And then it started to form into a more like script shape kind of stuff. And to me, like writing is one part, but it's really important when I get into production, when I come back in China and start to see that things in my memory has already changed in reality. And that also impacts partially of the content of the film, of how I write it and see these characters or spaces in the story. And so the rewriting keeps on going from the writing stage to production and then into editing. So I try to stay fresh and alert with what I'm experiencing in the story and also in reality, and then try to keep the film alive by stay honest with the content that's coming to my experience.
I think that's right. You know, the film is made 3 times, really. It's in the conception and the writing. Then you remake and tell the story in production, and again the story is found in the edit as well. So it's always really important to surround yourself with really talented people as well, and collaborators. And one of the things that's very which I imagine you did here, successful films work that way. But I think that I was reading a quote from a filmmaker recently saying that a film is never really good unless the camera is in the eye, is an eye in the head of a poet. And I think that there is exceptionally beautiful film and cinematic poetry going on here in your film. And there's lots of different styles, or stylistic choices, I should say. And there's a luminosity to the film. It's really luminous, and obviously you shot it in black and white, and that's a very deliberate choice. And then other stylistic and visual choices. And I know you worked with your DOP, Matthias Delvaux, and who's a Chinese-based cinematographer, I think. You can tell me more about that.
Yeah.
But can you talk about the visual style and why you made the choices you made?
So when I write the film, I didn't imagine in black and white yet, but when I come back to China, and I think there are certain memories juxtaposed with the reality and the things that I create around these memories and realities. All these things are coming together parallelly, and I don't want to create certain visual cues for people to differentiate what is what. So in a way, I think black and white kind of merge people into a monotone world, and you dive into it, and you see things, and you choose what you believe and how you feel. I don't want to make like memories in black and white or like other parts in color and all that. And also, I think colored images are more accessible, because that's like similar to what we see every day for most people. But black and white create a certain distance between what you see on the screen and yourself, and that brings certain coldness to the tone of the film. I think works for this story. And also, like, there are like DV portions and all that. Partially it's in the script. That's something I want to test out. It draws certain abrupt line between contents, and I want to see how that affects people. That's not another visual cue for people to differentiate content. I think it's different layers of the reality in the story that I want people to experience. So as for my DOP, I met him a year ago before the production. I showed him the script with a beer at an Italian restaurant. And he just came back from the trip. He's like really busy. And then after a year, it's like a really low budget film. And we get together shortly before the production. I draw the storyboard on a whiteboard, and we only have one whiteboard. I have to like keep on drawing and erase them and keep on drawing. And he's like, oh, I didn't imagine a film like this from the script. I was like, okay. But I tried to show him how I imagine the film. And when we work on set, I will many times let him show me how he see it, and then do adjustments. And I think he's really respectful of the female protagonist in the story. For example, there are masturbation scenes, and he will pick an angle, but somehow I feel it's not right. He will ask me to show him what I see, and then he will try to make it better. So I think through, and also like the DV portions, he's afraid that sometimes he may be too conscious of the equipment, and sometimes he will ask me to do it myself. So there are portions that I shot myself. There are portions that I shot by him for the DV stuff. I think it's a process that we really try to work it together, or try to make something that works the best for the film. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of scenes in this film that we've seen, you know, represented in films before, like you know, the kissing scene with the mother, or the masturbation, or the love making, or the very intimate, what we consider intimate, traditionally intimate scenes. But I really feel like they're often sensationalized or created in some way for a certain expected audience experience. And I think that that's really interesting to hear you describe how you approach that, because I felt really, really strongly and viscerally that I was seeing something so authentic to the character. And I know I totally get what you're saying about that it's not about gender or it's not about propagating stereotypes of what a woman is or what sexuality is, or preconceived notions or rigid notions. But I feel it's really rare to see a film, and it's sad that it's as rare as it is, to see a woman that I recognize, to see a woman that's fully rounded, like a woman I know this woman, because she's multifaceted and authentic. And can you talk a little bit about your character Muzi, and maybe creating an authentic portrayal and all your characters, but and maybe then I know there's a very very unique casting element to this film. Talk a little bit about your character and then the casting of those roles, please.
Cool. I think after I write the story, I'm not really attached to the things that I wrote. So I think the most important thing for me is to find the people that are interesting for the film. So, for example, originally in the script, the boyfriend person is very much different from what you see in the film. But I met this boy, like a man. He's also an artist, a filmmaker, and we screen our work at the same venue. And we met, and I found him really interesting. I asked him if he's like interested in acting. So there are like and also the father character, I met him at a jazz bar. He's like a real percussionist, and he plays drum, like jazz, really well. And I asked him if he's interested in acting. And I started to collect these people, no matter I know newly or I know as friends. And the lead actress, I found her on Instagram because she left school when she was 16 in Hangzhou, so she speaks the dialect, and she traveled to Beijing, and she was circled with some like photographer and artist friends, so she has some like pretty good photos on Instagram. And I saw something really fragile in her eye, and I just trying to know her, so I messaged her on Instagram and asked her if she wants to meet up. So we made a short film before the feature, but she has never acted before. So I tried to like collect these people and see if there's any kind of chemistry between them. And I also like worked my script around them and tried to embrace what they can bring for the film. So I think that partially helps to make the cast together in a more organic way. And also like during, I try to shoot the whole process when these people are changing from who they are to characters, and the destination of what kind of characters they become or how close these characters are close to what I wrote is not that important. I think there is a direction that we are working on together, and we build trust upon it. And there are scenes that we shot during rehearsals, during meetups, and also during principal shoots. So that's also a way, like we said before, like trying to keep the film alive and these people alive instead of someone that I imagined. Yeah.
And that's very interesting as well, because you've told me you're currently in Beijing and you've just celebrated Chinese New Year, and belated happy Chinese New Year to you and to everyone in the audience. We had big celebrations normally here in Dublin for Chinese New Year. I know that they still they lit up all the buildings in Chinese colors here, and there was certain online celebrations, but hopefully next year we'll be back to our normal celebrations. But interestingly, just you said that to me just before we started talking, but this film is also based about around a young woman going back to her hometown for Chinese New Year to celebrate that. And also it is your hometown, and you are a woman, so of course people are going to want to know, and I know you've been asked this 100 times, is your film autobiographical? But I'm not going to ask you that. But I mean, you could argue that all the films we make are about ourselves in many ways, but in terms of maybe those people that you're talking about and the people that you've created, are you mining the lives around you, and how much of it is you personally and then you as a filmmaker bringing the world, you know, to the cinema? So how much of it is you in your lead character? And yeah, tell us a little bit about that, and even if how annoying that question is.
um, I think that, like you said, like it has been asked many times around that question. I think it's, I think it, I think during the writing, I think a lot of the content came from me, but from like my past memories of someone, like not exactly like certain characters that you see in the film, but there are like references or stories of myself or what I heard from people around me. And also like there are, but then like during the casting and all that, I realized, or like during the writing also, like it's many times very common among people. For example, like the father character, like he also had a daughter before with another woman from Netherlands, and now like lived in Taiwan, and now he has a new family with a really young child. So I think it's kind of reality for many people as well, but that's like not an excuse to say like it's not like my writing or partially my story, but that's like I'm not very focused on like calling back a memory. To me, like creating a new reality or using film as a way to interfere with life, to get to know people, and to touch upon something that are maybe vulnerable for us or fragile for us, and see what that really means for you through the production and through like telling the story. And I think during this whole process, like all of us are digesting something that carried with us. So, and after this film is done, we're sending this film out to share with more people. And I think people are also like chewing upon these kind of these feelings that we hold in this film. And hopefully that will make certain people at certain where, like no matter where in the world, a little bit less lonely. I think that's kind of the thing that we're doing instead of telling my own story. I think I'm not that narcissistic yet.
I think that that's very interesting because I know that a lot of the time we go to the cinema for fantasy and for escape, but and that can be true. But I also think a huge motivating factor, and for me personally, is I want to see life reflected back. I want to know that what I think and feel, I'm not alone in feeling and thinking that. And that's exactly what you're saying. It there is a feeling with this film, and some of that feeling is around loneliness, but it does the opposite of making me feel lonely. It makes me feel um that we all have a solidarity of experience. And that's why I said, even though it is so uniquely Chinese as well, of course, but it could have been said in my hometown. I'm from, you know, a town like this in a way, and I recognize the characters, and I think that that's the success and the beauty of the work that that you've made here. I have to ask you about smoking in this film, and I'm not an anti-smoker. I'm not that person, but I've never seen so much smoking in a film since maybe Humphrey Bogart or something. I don't know. But also then, you know, I didn't read too much about the film because I don't really want to be influenced by what other people think. But I did read one article, and it talked a little bit about your film on French New Wave. And I was thinking, I wonder, is that another annoying question for you, or are you influenced by, Godard, or, and I was thinking about how much Jean-Paul Belmondo smokes in Breathless, or, but everybody's smoking in your film. And it's
There's
it's
a
quite
little
unusual to see.
stepsister that she doesn't smoke.
Oh yeah, okay. But nearly everybody else is smoking, and smoking all the time. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that's just a funny little question, but also, are you influenced by French New Wave, or what influences you in your filmmaking? What filmmakers do you like? I'd love to know as well.
Okay. So first about smoking. I the character, there are like smoking scenes written for this film, but also like they just happen to be smokers. Like yeah, like even sometimes I feel like you've already been smoking in the scene, but then we start to talk about the scene and do adjustment, and they just start to light a cigarette and start smoking, and so that's part of it. And I'm not like promoting like smoking and all that. That's like bad for your health. But sometimes I feel like that's something they are used to, and in a way that forms their pacing with someone. For example, like you smoke with certain people and you don't smoke with non-smokers most of the time. So when they are both smokers, and previously I did another short film about smokers called like Smokers Die Slowly Together. So there are also like certain intimacy about people doing bad things together when you know it's bad. So that's like I think part of it. And for the French New Wave, I think of course like I adore like Godard and Agnès Varda and all these filmmakers. I have like truly respect for them. But I think for influenced, let me see, like I like many films from Japan, from like 50s to 70s, like really crazy films like Funeral Parade of Roses and all those. And I like Carlos Regadas. And there are just like many filmmakers I think I like, but I'm not someone who watch a lot of films to learn film, because I think when I was younger, I didn't realize that I want to be a filmmaker. So I started with writing, photography, painting, and all that. It just like eventually I reached a point feeling like I want to do motion picture. And that like all like still photography and writing comes back to me from time to time, because I feel like different media are doing different things. And it suits different things that I want to express. So I'm not having a role model or something, but I definitely appreciate like beautiful and bold approach towards cinema and motion picture or moving image videos in general. I think that creates certain space and way of time traveling and experiencing life in another perspective in a way. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that something very important, students are always asking, or we should ask ourselves the question, what would make me a better filmmaker? And I think, yes, of course, watching films is one thing, but I also think that going to art galleries is one. Photography, of course, stills photography, but also I think reading. And I have a friend, a colleague who was constantly telling students to read books. Is that something, are you a big reader? Did you grow up in a reading household?
Mm-hmm. I like reading, and when I was younger in my parents' place, they have a lot of books, and I'm also not I'm not like reading systematically, because my father teaches at art academy, and he had like different kinds of friends coming in when I was younger. So I will go to a place of a painter's house, for example, and they're playing cards, like drinking or whatever. And I was like in primary school, I would see like photos of naked boys, like penis framed in black and white, and also see like illustration books, how do you call those, like with pictures, or photo books, and also like different kind of novels that maybe describing like certain deserts in Africa, or like it just like everything randomly comes to me. So I like reading, and I think that brings me certain imaginary space that is much more free than concrete image. So I think I have, I was nurtured by literature and prints and published materials. Yes.
Yeah, I think literature and art stimulate the imagination and the creative mind, sometimes more than looking at other films or trying to emulate them. I think creating your own voice is what you want, and obviously what you have done so successfully here. I was wondering, obviously this film is receiving a lot of attention and critical acclaim, and you won some prizes for this film, and at Rotterdam, of course, but I was wondering, how much has this film screened in China, and even in Hangzhou? Have you screened it there? And can you talk a little bit about the reaction there, or yeah, just what
Yeah,
you can
sure.
tell me about that?
Yeah, so far we're still going to festivals this film, so there's no like public screenings in cinema in China yet. But we did have hosted some private screenings for people who have like helped this film or really cared about the film during the making of this film. So mostly in China, the people who have seen the film are either saw the film at festivals or at these private screenings. So because they're friends, so it's not that objective like reactions, but I think for many people it's still pretty challenging, because right now in China, I think you rarely see things. There are certain things that are not so common in cinema right now in China, and as for many audience, I think people are still like looking for a dramatic story, for fantasy, or for like a full cinema experience that expected from certain films, for example, like Hollywood, or yeah. So, but there are also maybe a group of people who really fancy this film and think they see something really that they really cherish. So and also like I'm not looking for everyone to like this film. I think it's free of their choice. So, but it's always good to meet the audience and feel the energy at the in the dark room. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think that if a filmmaker sets out to make a film that everyone will like, they will make a really bad film, most likely. I think as well, there's something, I like the way, whether it's your just instinct, that you don't underestimate your audience, you don't overly signpost, and most importantly, you give us time and space that we can sit with what we're seeing, sit with what we're feeling, and let that come up to the fore or not, depending on the person. But for me, that's one of the things that I love in cinema, and the filmmakers that I love, they do that so well, and it's hard to do in terms of craft and filmmaking. But I suppose, can you talk a little bit about maybe it's in the edit, when you're editing, is that the place where, I know you wrote it that way probably, but is that the place where you find how to do that, how long to leave us with the characters, or those beautiful little moments of intimacy, like the mother with the foreign boyfriend. He's Dutch, I think, but I think he's played by your cinematographer. Is that right? Just
Yes.
that moment with the two, and you're not afraid to fill the frame, and there's just so much. I think it's kind of brave in a way, even though from meeting you now and talking to you, I know that's probably who you are, but watching it, I feel like there's brave elements. Talk a little bit about those decisions, maybe, if you wouldn't mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't want. Um, so um, so one thing is editing. Like for sure, at the end we have to make the choice of how long certain things last, or what to keep or left out in the film. But I think it also has a lot to do with how we approach the performance, because many of the cast are non-professionals. So I also leave a lot of room for improvisation, and then reshaping these improvisations. So, for example, as the scene you mentioned between the mother and the boyfriend, the new boyfriend, the new encounter. Um, so they are learning each other's languages. So we try several ways for them to approach it. And I think because the mother character is played by a pretty well-known, she's professional. So in a way, she will make certain choices on her end, and then I will talk to them for like different tasks they have to take, and then my cinematographer also is someone who's experienced in cinema, and he will have some take that is more fresh as for an actor. So I think in between there are different approaches that sometimes that will clash and make little sparks. And I think I just need to leave certain rooms for them to feel safe, and for them to be willing to try things. And then we can make adjustment for the next take. So I think improvisations and then communication after the improvisations and reshaping the scene helps to keep certain moments in the film. Yes.
And it's really interesting, and
Oh,
something.
sorry, and add a little bit. Sorry. And for the boyfriend thing, for example, when they're taking photos on the mountaintop, it's also like a character that I adapted. Like these kind of jobs are done at that location, like daily. That's like a popular place for wedding photos. So I will tell him what I heard from those professional ones who are doing this job, and many times they're very funny, and they have to make these people who are about to take wedding photos happy. So there are also things that we have to learn from life and adjust it into the film. Yes.
So you stay open throughout the process. You set up the story, the parameters. You cast some non-actors, some professional, and then you stay open to what Orson Welles used to call divine accidents, things that can come from maybe the person's life, maybe your life, maybe out of creative collaboration. And that's filmmaking. It is an ongoing creative collaboration. I feel like I could ask you so much more. I had so many more questions, but we have to kind of limit the time for online events. I'm so sorry, because we have to respect
No.
our audience. They've come to watch your film, and it's such a pity you're not in Dublin with us now, and we would be in a beautiful cinema, and we would go to questions from the audience,
I
and then
know.
we'd all go and have something to eat and drink and have a really lovely time. But I'm sure that will happen again in the future. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that I'll speak for everyone who saw this film, and again congratulate you and thank you for a beautiful film. And also maybe just finish with one question, which is I know you're in Beijing, and you're also on your way back to Hangzhou soon, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, what you're working on, and maybe what's coming next. I know you're still with the life of this film, but I'm sure you are planning something else.
Yes, I'm doing a little bit of writing, and I'm also start to reorganize my photos, and because I took a lot of them and just didn't have time to work on them yet. And I'm also like working on a family documentary. But I don't know like which parts of these will come into shape first. So we will see. Yeah. And I want to thank all the people who have watched the film. Yeah. In Ireland.
Thanks. Have you ever been to Ireland or Dublin?
No, never.
Okay, well, we will make sure, maybe with the next film, we will somehow have you come here and present your film in person, maybe through another festival or this one or something else. We would love that. We would really love that.
Yeah.
And thank you again to the festival for inviting me to host this Q&A. It's been my absolute pleasure and privilege. And I am so happy that I loved this film, and I actually will look forward to watching it again. If it comes here in a cinema, I will be going to see it in a cinema 100%, because it is.
Yeah, my colorist and sound designer will really appreciate that.
And also, when I love something like that, I want to now see it on the big screen to get the full experience. But just to thank you so much again, Xinyuan. It's been a real pleasure meeting you, even virtually, and I hope the next time it is in person. Thanks again.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you.